you need to go to the website aplusstudents.com. You just need to go to the website. Once you're on the website, you need to select math as your subject. This is a grade 9 lesson, grade 9s, and the topic for today is stats. So we say statistics. I'll give you the chapter number and the lesson number. The chapter number is 9 and the lesson number is 4. The chapter number is 9 and the lesson number is 4. What we will be doing today is we are trying to interpret a scatter plot. Scatter plot. Okay. So before starting scatter plots, let's see what are scatter plots and what are they used for. Okay. So if I would say scatter plot, what is a scatter plot? Okay. A scatter plot has two variables, right? A variable x and a variable y. We use x and y axis to represent a scatter plot, right? It tells us the trends. It identify. What do we identify? We can identify trends. Okay. We can find the correlation. The term correlation means what will happen if we change one variable, what effect it has on the other variable, right? And we have positive correlation, we can have a negative correlation, right? Or we can have a neutral, that there is no effect. Okay, let's see what can be positive. In case of positive, it means if one thing increases, the other thing increases, right? If one variable is increasing, then the second variable is also increasing. Similarly, for a negative would mean if one variable is increasing, the other variable is decreasing. Let's suppose if the price of gas would increase, then the consumption of gas would decrease, right? And neutral means just marks that you scored in your test affecting the price of a burger at a restaurant, right? Your marks does not affect that, right? So they are neutral. They cannot be interlinked, okay? Before doing this, what we need to see is, I said we are going to use x and y axis, right? So if we have a sample xy axis, okay, let's make a different axis. Okay, let's say this is our xy axis. Okay, so this would always be the x-axis. This is always the vertical is the y-axis. Okay, so let's see the three types of correlations we have: positive, negative, and we know that the equation of a line, the linear equation is always y is equals to, the linear equation is always y is equals to mx plus c, right? Where m represents what? M represents the slope or the gradient. Agreed? So M represents the slope, how much slant a line is, or it represents the gradient. It's also called the gradient. Okay, it shows us how slant a line is, right? M is our most important focus over here. Okay, so what we can say is whenever we have an axis, x and y axis, we can have two types of lines, right? Either we can have an increasing line or we can have a decreasing gradient. Let's see what can be an increasing gradient. If the line is increasing onto this side, it's going towards the positive y and the positive x-axis. That means the slope is positive. Okay. But if the line is decreasing, right, going downwards, okay, I'll show the arrows also to show it's increasing. Increasing means positive, decreasing means negative. Okay, if the line is decreasing, it has a negative gradient. Okay, we can say that the slope in this case would be negative. Okay, just by looking at the slope, we can tell what kind of a correlation is there. Or if the line is just horizontal, okay, if the line is like this, or if the line is vertical, let's suppose if the line is like this, right? If the lines are parallel to either of the axes, horizontal, that means we can say in this case that it's neutral. Okay, there is no correlation. Agreed? So what we saw over here was, we saw what kind of correlations can be there, what kind of a trend can be there. The three basic types were positive correlation, that means the slope is positive or the slanting towards the positive side. The negative correlation, negative slope, and neutral means there is no coordination. Neutral would be like you getting your marks compared to the price of a burger, right? They're neutral, they do not affect each other. So once we move to the questions, with the questions we'll have a better idea, okay? And correlation can be used as a trend also. They use the word trend sometimes, okay? So correlation and trend would be the same thing. In a scatter plot, let's see if we have a scatter plot. Let's see what we can do over here. Okay, if this is given to us, they're asking us whether this has a positive trend or a negative trend, right? Or no trend. That means it would be neutral. Let's use these specific words. So what we need to do in a scatter plot is random points are given to us. Random values have been generated. That means when the value of x was 0, y was 1 point something, right? When x was 0.8, y was this, and random points, right? That means if this point was here, this was 4.3. Then if x was 2, this was 4.3, right? These coordinates have been plotted, right? So what we need to see is, in a scatter plot, we need to show that what is the slope of a line. And in a scatter plot, we draw a line that touches or passes through the maximum number of points. Okay, so let's try drawing a line over here. If I would say, if I draw a line something like this, is it passing through or touching the maximum number of points? No, it's not, right? If I draw a line like this, it's not, still not. If I draw a line that's facing downwards, would it be passing through the maximum number of points? No, because the points are increasing, right? So what we do is we try to draw a scatter plot is an open-ended question, right? That means all the students can have a little variation in their lines, right? Everyone will not have the same exact gradient or the slope. There would be a small difference in decimals, okay? And that is acceptable. So what we see over here is the slope is going towards the positive y, right? Positive y-axis, and it is going towards a positive x-axis, right? This is going over here. So what we can say is whenever this is happening, the slope is positive. And whenever the slope was positive, it was a positive trend. Okay, so we can say this has a positive trend. Okay, let's see what is the meaning of a positive trend, right? Positive trend means if x was, sorry, positive trend means that if x was increasing, right, then y is also increasing. Okay, that means both the variables. What we can see over here is when we are increasing the values of x from 2 to 4 to 6 and 8, that means the values of y are also increasing from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 and so on, right? That means if x is increasing, y is increasing, that is a positive trend. Okay, do we agree on this? Thank you. Let's move ahead with another example. So the next question says, what does this scatter plot show us? Okay, I'll just copy the next question. And the question number 2 states that if we have a scatter plot, I'll just draw it over here. If we have a scatter plot, so does this scatter plot show a positive trend, negative trend, or no trend? We need to identify that, right? First thing first, whenever we need to identify a trend, we need to draw a line. So can I draw a line like this, saying that this is passing through maximum number of points? We cannot, right? Because it is not in between the maximum number of points. The line has to be in a downward direction. Can we draw a line over here saying this is passing through maximum number of points? No, it's not passing through. What we need to see is it should be a little balance. The points above the line should approximately be equal to the points below the line, right? So that in this case, we can say this is going downwards, right? This is decreasing. What we can say is when x was, let's suppose 2, y was 7, right? I'll mark this points 2 and 7. When x becomes 6, what is the value of y? Y is approximately this. So what is happening when x is increasing, y is decreasing, right? So we can say when x is increasing, then y was decreasing, right? That means we can say this has a negative trend. Whenever the variables are responding opposite to each other, if y was increasing, then x has to decrease, vice versa. Okay, so this is the difference between a positive trend and a negative trend, which we can find through the slope of a line. So we need to focus on finding the slope. Okay, moving ahead to the next. So the next question says, does this scatter plot show a positive trend or a negative or no trend? Today we are just trying to identify. Okay, we are not trying to find the answers. We're just trying to identify. Okay. So the question is given over here and it says this. This is our question number 3. For question number 3, let's try drawing a line. Can I say a line can be drawn like this? A horizontal line. That means the points above the line and below the line are same. But we can see that in this particular case, a lot of points are far away from the line, right? That means it's not passing through the maximum number of points. So what we do is we try drawing the line again. Can I say this is the line? If I say this is the line, then these points are scattered very far away. The line is not passing through the points again, right? But if we want to draw a line, something like this, in this direction, that means the line is passing through maximum number of points and it is in the direction of the points. And whenever we have a positive slope, we say it is a positive trend because it's a positive slope or gradient. Gradient and the slope is the same thing. It tells how slant a line is. That means when x was increasing, that means when the values of x are increasing, the values of y are also increasing, right? That means they have a positive correlation. They have a positive trend. Okay. That means another term is they are directly proportional. That means if one value is increasing, the other value would increase. It's like if you're baking a cake, if you're making one cake, you need ingredients in a certain quantity, right? But if you would bake 5 cakes, that means the ingredients would be 5 times now. That means number of cakes is directly proportional to the amount of ingredients, right? They would increase. Okay. Let's have a look at the next one. Sometimes the neutral, positive and negative are very close to each other, right? So let's look at the next example. And let's see what we can say over here. For question number 4, it says, does it have a positive, negative, or a neutral trend? No trend. This is our question number 4. Okay. So what can we say about this? See, the first thing first, we cannot have a line that is decreasing, right? We cannot have a line that is decreasing. Why? This line is not passing through the majority number of points. If we drew a line, the points are very far away. But can we say this line is vertical? Is it passing through maximum number of points? Is this passing through maximum number of points, right? Let's see if we keep this as an option and we take another line as an option. Which fit is a better fit? Because the line, it has the values that are not perfectly straight. The line has the values within this shape, right? The line is increasing and it has a lower slope, but still it has a slope, right? It's not very tilted, but it still has some slope. So we say that this is again a positive trend, a positive correlation. That means if x was increasing, y was also increasing, right? When both the variables are increasing, a positive trend. When they are reverse of each other, one increasing, one decreasing, negative trend, right? And one variable does not change with the change in one other variable, that means it's a neutral, no trend, okay? Moving ahead to the next question. For the next question, it says, okay. The next question, it says, does the scatter plot show a negative trend, positive trend, or a no trend? I would want you to assist me with this. Please help me out with question number 5. What kind of a trend do we see over here? For question number 5. Is it a positive trend, negative trend, or there is no trend over here? Question number 5. Let's draw either of these lines. If I draw this line, is this line passing through maximum number of points? Even if I say it's passing through this or it's passing through this, right? Let's suppose I draw it like this. It's passing through 3 points, but the points on either side of the line. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's make some copies of this and let's try to see what we can do on the copy. Okay, this is the first copy and paste, right? If we want to see whether it has a positive trend, if we make this line pass through the maximum number of points, can we say that these points on either side, are they near to the, are these points near to the line? Are they close or they are far away? They seem to be far away. That means it's not a positive trend, right? Let's have a look for a negative trend. If I would say this is the line passing through maximum number of points, but there are so many points over here which are so far away from the line, right? So we cannot have too many points far away from the line. So we can say it does not have a negative trend either, right? So what we can say is, since the points are scattered throughout, right? They're randomly scattered throughout, right? So we say we cannot see a trend. There is no one uniform way of telling us whether when the variable x is increasing, what impact, because when x was 2, we had this answers, we had these possible answers, right? So which exactly is the answer at x2? Is this the answer, this the answer, this or this? We do not have specific answers for specific values of x, right? So we say there is no trend. No trend means the variable x is not affected by the variable y or vice versa, right? These two variables do not affect each other. That means there is no trend, okay? Do we agree? Because there is no obvious pattern over here, okay? Let's move ahead to the next question. For the next question, it says, does the scatter diagram have a positive correlation, negative correlation, or no correlation? The word correlation means trend. Just a moment, please. Let me copy the opening statement. Does the scatter plot have a positive, negative, or no? Okay, for question number 6, what do you think it should be? Can we have a negative trend over here? I would say I'll make a line that is passing through this. The points are very far away from the line, right? Can I say the points are scattered throughout? No, they're not. They're following a pattern. They are close to each other. We do not see a point anywhere over here, far away points. We do not have far away points, right? That means there is a particular pattern that's being followed. Okay, let's see what pattern could it be. We can say it does not have a negative. Let's see if it has a positive. Can we say that the line is passing through the maximum number of points, through the maximum number of points, and the points which is not passing through, they are very close to the line, right? So we can say that in this particular question, we see a positive correlation. I'm using separate words, different words, right? It says positive trend, but I'm using positive correlation because we know that trend and correlation is same. When x will increase, then y is increasing, right? Because if x was 2, then the values of y were near 2, right? But when x was 4, y is also increasing. X was 6, y is increasing. X was 8, then y also increased from more than 8, right? That means when x is increasing, y is increasing. That means positive correlation, or we have a positive trend. Moving ahead to the next question. The next question says, let me just copy this. They have the same opening statement. Does the scatter have a positive correlation or a negative correlation or no correlation? And let's look at the diagram. The diagram says, this is the given diagram. Okay. For question number 7, does the scatter plot show a positive, negative, or no trend, right? So can we say that, are these points scattered throughout? They're not, right? They are concentrated in a particular direction. So we can say we cannot have no trend. There is a trend, right? So let's see what is the trend. Can we have a line that is going downward like this? And we say that this line is passing through the maximum number of points, and the points at the farther ends are not scattered. They are very near to the line. But that is not true, because we have some points over here which are very far from the line, right? So let's see again. Can we say that there is a line that is going in this direction? Because we can see that when x was this point, y was smaller, right? When x is increasing, y is increasing. When x is increasing, y is increasing, right? So that means we can see there is a trend over here, and the line is going towards the positive side, right? So we say that there is a positive trend or a correlation. That means when x is increasing, y is also increasing, right? When both the variables are increasing, that means we have a positive trend. Sorry. Let's do the next question. Question number 8. Okay. Question number 8 says, does this scatter plot would always have dots. Okay, we need to remember that. This is type of data or information that would be provided to us. It's usually done for large data assessments. Okay, if you're comparing large values, then we use this. Okay, we have this, and they're still asking us whether it shows a positive, negative, or no trend. Question number 8. Can we say it is a positive trend because it's passing through maximum number of points? It is passing through. We made a line that is passing through maximum number of points, but the problem is that the points at the corner, these points are very far away from this line, right? The line is not passing through maximum number of points. Whenever we need to find a trend, we need to find a line that is passing through maximum. If I would say this was a negative trend, can I say this? It is passing through 2 points, right? But the problem is there are extreme points over here. That means whenever we have extreme points which are not near the line, we cannot use that. But can we say that the points are scattered throughout the plot, right? There is no fixed pattern. So we say that there is no fixed trend, right? There is no correlation between the two variables. If x is increasing, y does not depend on x, right? See, how can we say that? We can say that by this. These are the closest ones. Is x was 70, right? Y was 70 also, and y was 90. So which value of y would you take? This value of y or this value of y? For this particular value of x. That means for a particular value of x, there is no particular value of y. Therefore, we say there is no fixed trend. Okay. Positive trend means positive gradient. Negative trend means negative gradient. But in this particular question, question number 8, since the dots are scattered throughout the diagram, that means we do not have a trend over here. Okay. So both the variables are neutral. They do not affect each other. Moving ahead to the next question. Question number 9. Okay. We have the next question. It says, does this scatter plot show a positive, negative, or no trend? Same requirements. Okay. If we have the same requirements, let's see what we can say about this. This is our question number 9. Can we see the scatter plot concentrated in a particular direction? Concentrated means, are they close to each other? Are they following a particular direction? So if I would say, okay, let me make 2 more copies of this. Okay, so that we can do the workings on this. Okay, I cannot say that they are scattered. Scatter would require them to be at extreme points also, right? So this is no trend is not possible, right? Because they are concentrated in one point. But if I would say I had this line passing through maximum number of points, that means it's passing through 3 points over here. 1, 2, and 3. And we have the almost same number of dots on this side. And we have almost same number of dots on this side, right? But in order to find a trend, our requirement is that the line should be passing through the max in between and through the maximum number of points, right? So we can say that this is not possible. But if we would try another line that is downwards, is it passing through maximum number of points? Yes, we can agree on that, right? And are the other points near the line, right? We can say they are not scattered away. As the previous example, in this case, these points are so far away from the line, right? Scattered far away. But over here, what we can see is the points are very close to the line, right? There might be one point that is over here, but one point will not change the result, right? Because there is a single point that is out scattered. But we would go with the majority of the points. If the majority of the points are near the line, then we say this trend is correct. Since this is downward, and we know that downward slope would mean a negative slope or gradient, because it's decreasing, right? How can we say? If y was 8, then x was somewhere between 1 and 2, right? X was 2 when y was 6, x becomes somewhere around 5, right? What is happening? Y is decreasing, but x is increasing. Okay, so the negative slope of gradient says it has a negative correlation or a negative trend. That means if X is increasing, Y has to decrease. Okay. So what we are doing over here is we are just looking at the trends. We are not looking at what these values would represent in reality. Okay. That would be a separate topic. But right now we are just looking at the trends. Would it be a positive? Would it be a negative? The more slant the line is, right? That means it has more correlation. The two factors would be directly proportional to each other. In a positive, in a negative, they are inversely proportional, which you have studied in the topic of variations. That is directly proportional and inversely proportional, okay, quantities. Let's try to do some questions from the test. Let's look at the possibilities. Okay, just a moment, please. I'll just copy the questions. The question number 1 says, we are given a diagram and they're asking us which kind of a trend can we see over here. So I'll just give the heading for the test. Okay, this is our question number 1 for the test. I'll resize. Okay, if I say this is our question number 1 and the heading would be test. Let me see how many questions are there. There are almost, oh, just 10 questions, right? Very easy. We can do the remaining ourselves as well. So what kind of a correlation do we see over here? Anyone? Precious, Semi, Edna, what kind of this diagram has what kind of a trend? Can we say it is a positive? Do we agree on positive? Why? Why don't we agree? Yes, thank you. Because if we are drawing a line, perfect. You said the points are scattered, right? So if you're using the term scattered, it means it cannot be positive. It cannot be negative, right? Thank you. Thank you for the answer. That means it shows no trend because the points are scattered throughout the diagram, right? They're not concentrated. They are not focusing a particular direction. They are spread out. Thank you. Let's move ahead to the next question. So we click on no trend. Yes, that's a correct answer. For the next question, it says, does this scatter plot show a positive trend, negative trend, or no trend? Okay, let's pick it up. So for question number 2, it says this statement. I'll resize. Okay, this is our question number 2. So what kind of a trend do we see over here? Do we see a positive trend, a negative trend, or no trend? We can say that we do see a trend, right? Because the points are, unlike question number 1, they're not scattered. They are close. Some points are close to each other, right? That means, yes, perfect. It cannot be no trend, right? So it has to be a positive or a negative. Waiting. Can anyone give me an answer? Semi, what are the possibilities? If we would draw a line on this, would it have a positive slope or a negative slope? I'll draw both, right? Then you select. If we have a negative slope, the line would be something like this, passing through the maximum number of points. But we need to see if they are close or if they are far, right? And a positive slope would mean the line is like this, right? So which option should be correct? Yes, thank you. positive trend is correct because the line is passing in this direction, which is passing through the points. That means, or we can say, if this was 20, this was 22, let's suppose. When this was 40, it had increasing values. 50 is 80, right? 40 also had this value. That means it's had, yes, agreed. This is a positive trend. Okay, let's move ahead. Thank you for the answer. Okay, the next question we have says, find the trend. We have a positive, no trend, or a negative trend. Once we look at the trends, just a moment, please. For question number 3, if this is given to us and we need to find the trend. So what kind of a trend is this? Is it a positive trend, a negative trend, or a no trend? Should be easy. Yes, thank you, Precious. Because the points are scattered, right? Yes, answer is correct. If you're saying it is no trend, because the points are scattered throughout. We do not have a close relation, right? It does not show us at what value of x, what should be the value of y. They are scattered. And whenever they are scattered, there is no trend. Thank you. Moving ahead to the next question. So I would say no trend, right? Let's have a look at the next question. The next question says, does this scatter plot show a positive, negative, or no trend? Question number 4. For us, if this is our question number 4, it says this information. Okay. Question number 4 is here. So what does it show? Does it show a positive, negative, or no trend? See, they're not scattered, right? So we have to cancel out no trend. Sometimes it's easier to remove what is not possible. Now find. Now we have a 50-50% chance. But when we had 3 options, it was 33% chance, right? So always try to remove the options which are impossible or they seem vague. So now we have a positive trend or a negative trend. What can we do, Bob, over here? We can see a trend, right? Yes, Jennifer. The line is, what we can see is, your answer is correct. What we see is the values of y were very high when x was somewhere over here. What is happening? As x is increasing, the values of y has decreased. If x was increasing, the y is decreasing, right? That means they are opposite of each other. Agreed. Thank you. Yes, I agree with you. This is a negative trend. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. So let's click on the option. Would it say negative? Yes, it is a negative, right? Let's try one more. Does this scatter plot show a positive, negative, or no trend? When we look at the next question, question number 5, we'll have this information. Can I have the answer? If this was our question number 5, it's not scattered, right? No trend is out of picture. What can we have? May, what can be the answer? See, is it like question number 4? Is it decreasing or is it increasing? Yes, thank you, May. It is increasing, right? So wherever we have an increasing trend, it would be something like this, right? That means if X was increasing, yes, thank you, it is always a positive trend. Thank you, May. Okay, we say it was a positive. We've done half the questions. We are left with half the questions, right? Please do complete the remaining questions as your home practice. Okay, if there is any concern, you can always go through the video recap and revise it. Okay. Sorry. Best of luck. Have a nice day. Take care.